Yes, I can hear you.
Russ, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have you down to do the flag salute tonight.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I'm ready whenever you are on my end.
Okay, thanks.
Teresa, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you now, Chief. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
We are now called to order. Roll call, Monica?
Councilman Wickenhagen,
Here.
Councilwoman Matson,
Here.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Here.
Councilman Peterson,
Here.
Councilman Bell,
Here.
Councilman Costello,
Here.
Councilman Carlson,
Here.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for prayer with Pastor Morris tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Morris, are you there?
Well, let's see. I am here. Can you hear me now?
I can now, thank you.
Okay. Well, let's do this again, at least from my point of view. All right. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Council. Let's pray. Father, thank you for the day. Thank you for your goodness to us. I thank you for those that serve our community, that they dedicate their time and their energies to the betterment of the businesses, to the citizens, and to their well-being, and that you give them a spirit of wisdom, a spirit of discernment as they go through the affairs tonight, and bless them as they serve the people and give their lives away for us. And so we thank you for them. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Morris.
Thanks, guys.
Agenda changes. We're adding to our agenda resolution N4, resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with Consolidated Communications to replace the obsolete analog telephone system in the police department with a new digital telephone system, including new telephone handsets and equipment. Public appearance and introductions and presentations. We have Katrina Hinkle tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Just quick updates. We're working steadily behind the scenes to get ready for fall and Christmas time. And we're looking for donors maybe to help us wrap some more utility boxes in town, which are amazing, by the way. There's been so much good feedback. We're working on a Light the Way project to get white lights along our businesses, along First and Natchez, just to kind of improve our atmosphere for visitors that come into town. And I think that's about it for now. There's a lot of behind the scenes work happening right now just to get ready for the upcoming fall and winter. So are there any, and National Night Out, August 3rd. I know Chief Christmas is gonna probably bring it up. We've invited some businesses to bring some games so the kiddos and the community members can interact with law enforcement. So businesses can be seen present and open as well. So I hope you can all join us. It seems like it's gonna be a really fun night. Is there any questions? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Katrina. Chief Lang.
Stand by 1 second.
Can you hear
please.
me, Mayor?
I can.
Okay, Miss Willis, you should be in the meeting now. Go ahead, Chief.
All right, everybody. I'm on the phone with you tonight as I'm in my vehicle. So tonight's introduction is for Christine Willis. She is coming to us as our new district secretary. She's got a lot of experience with the duties of this job. She's got a vested interest in our community and the fire department, as she is the wife to our training officer, Lieutenant Scott Willis. And so I'm proud to introduce Christine Willis to you all. Go ahead, Christine.
Welcome, Christine.
I can't see. Is she able to communicate with us?
Yeah, she's on there, but it's a frozen picture right now. So Christine, if you
Oh.
can hear us, welcome. But it's a pretty picture, so.
Okay, well, I don't want to speak for her, but maybe
Hi,
when
everyone.
she gets
There
the ability.
she is.
Oh, there you go.
We got her. Yeah, I think she's froze again.
Well, maybe when it gets a better connection, we can talk to her. But we're very
Okay.
proud to have her. We're excited, and thank you, Roger, for bringing it up to introduce her to the council tonight.
Thank you, Chief. Getting to know our business, there is none. Communications, there were no submissions for public comment tonight. Written, we have none. Proclamations and announcements, we have none. Consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. Should any council member request that any item on the consent agenda be considered separately, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and become part of the regular agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Jackie to approve the consent agenda, a second by Roger. Roll call, Monica?
I can do that, Madam Mayor. You can also just have them raise their
Sorry.
hands.
Yep. All those in favor, raise your hands. Opposed? Monica, please read the consent agenda.
Approval of minutes, July 13, 2021 council meeting, and approval of claims and payroll.
Thank you. Public hearings, we have none. General business, under new business, we have none, and old business, we have none. Resolutions. Mr. Henney.
We can't hear you, Joe. You have to unmute.
I'm sorry. Resolution N1 is authorize the mayor to sign a Transportation Improvement Board funding application for the 2021 Arterial Preservation Program for Fremont Avenue Resurfacing Project. City's council requesting the city council to approve staff to proceed with the Transportation Improvement Board funding application for the 2021 Arterial Preservation Program for Fremont Avenue Resurfacing. Physical impact is about $337,162 of TIB grant with a city match of $37,463. The West Fremont Avenue needs resurfacing and the TIB has an arterial preservation program. The program requires a 10% match. The cost to resurface West Fremont Avenue from North First Street to 16th Street would exceed the program's funding limitations. So therefore, the proposed project limits are North 4th Street in Spires to 11th Street with an estimated construction cost of $374,625. The city match would be $37,463. The project scope is to grind and resurface the 2 travel lanes and crack seal, fog seal the center turn lane. If you've been up it, you'll see it's got quite a bit of allegation and some severe cracking. So it really needs to be resurfaced in those travel lanes. And that's all TIB has gone to now. They used to let you resurface entire street, but now they're doing travel lanes and turn lanes. They're not participating in, and that is to extend their ability to fund more projects for other jurisdictions. So the recommended motion is to authorize the mayor to sign a transportation improvement board funding application for the 2021 Arterial Preservation Program for the Fremont Avenue Resurfacing Project. The application is attached. There's a little map on the back of it that kind of shows the location. So that money would come from the Street Fund 111. We'd have to transfer in the 37,000 from Fund 115 and make this a budgeted item for next year.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a Transportation Improvement Board funding application for the 2021 Arterial Preservation Program for the Fremont Avenue Resurfacing Project.
Thank you, Jackie.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Jackie, a second by Cliff. Any discussion, council? Seeing none. Cliff, did you have your hand up?
I did. It's just a quick question. The, whatever that is, 4 or 5 blocks that from the up the city limits. What kind of shape are they in? How much would it cost? And does that just move that into like the next cycle?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well.
The original proposal was to take the project all the way to the city limits, but we're stopping at 11.
Yes.
And so that last 5 blocks, is it in dire need to be resurfaced or sealed or something? And where and how would we fit that into the schedule?
Well, we'd make an application again next year to cover the rest of it. The 115, the street reserve fund that we use for making matches for these projects is anticipated to have an ending fund balance of about 85,000 this year. So the project, if we went with this project, would take about 37,500 away from that. And we're gonna have to put some money in at the end of the year. And I'll get to that later about when we talk about the South 3rd Street. But this project would get, like I say, get from 4th to 11th, be a big start on it. They won't fund any more than about this amount. So it's the reason why I chose to stop it there. It's at an intersection. Not quite as bad as the first section of it. It's still getting bad. But
So we're looking for this project, we're looking at a 2022, 23 year completion date. I don't remember and I don't see it right offhand. So are we looking at the rest like 2 years out?
well, we would make an application, yes, next year for 2023. So this project would start in 2022. So yeah, this application will, if we were received or if we're selected, we would receive the funding, and then we would go out and do the grind and overlay next year. Then try to go for the next half the following year. Do the same process.
That answer your question, Cliff?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay, anybody else have any comments on it? Okay, we have a motion to approve by Jackie, a second by Cliff. Roll call, Monica?
Councilman Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Matson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilman Peterson,
Yes.
Councilman Bell,
Yes.
Councilman Costello,
Yes.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes.
Unanimous, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Resolution N2, Mr. Henny.
Well, this is a similar type deal. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a Transportation Improvement Board 2021 Urban Sidewalk Program application for Valley View, 3rd and Southern Avenue improvements. It got to the TIB project engineer, and HLA and I met down there with, like I say, with the TIB engineer, and the engineer didn't feel that this project would score very well for any kind of other matches for it, but he did like the idea of trying to put a sidewalk along the street. It connects to they're obviously the south end of town to Wixon Park. It connects to the Lynch School, and so obviously they don't promise anything, but he thought this was a good application and a worthy one for the sidewalk program. So what I'm asking is council to authorize the mayor to sign a Transportation Improvement Board 2021 Urban Sidewalk Program application for Valley View 3rd and Southern Avenue improvements. The normal 10% match will be covered by the $324,759 that we are putting into this project for our match. We're asking for a full $400,000 for that. The street funds doesn't have the money to cover this amount. This project's been going on since 2013, so it's hard to keep things straight and organized, but I mean, I'm doing it, but as far as keeping the various councils members that have come in place since then up to speed, the project's 2.7, almost 2.8 million. We're doing we're looking for the 400,000 from TIB for the sidewalk. I have a 1.6 million from Transportation Improvement Board from the Surface Transportation, and I'm hoping to get the 400,000 from TIB, which then leave us about 770,000 left for the city to cover. There is a sewer. We replaced the existing sewer line down. It's been in there since the 40s, early 50s, and so the cost of the pavement restoration that would normally be applied to this project, or if it was a standalone project, going to utilize that to help cover that $324,000. So I'm trying to get this thing whittled down, and if I get all this funding together and everything figured out, it will be about $200,000 into this project. So I'd like to make this application and to see about getting this project funding. And if we don't get it, I'll have to go one of two ways. One is either going to step aside and let some other city come forward and that can move ahead with their project, and we may have to wait a year or two, or the city's going to have to come up with additional funding to keep this project moving. So the city is requesting $400,000 in TIB grant funds to assist in the completion of the sidewalk gaps and install ADA sidewalk ramps on the South 3rd Street Improvement Project. This route is heavily traveled by the alternate vehicles to 1st Street. It is used significantly by pedestrians and is on the city's designated bike route. Public Works has secured federal funding, like I say, with $1,625,141. And so we're looking to get $400,000 from the Transportation Improvement Board to help with the construction of this project funding. So I'm asking to authorize the mayor to sign a Transportation Improvement Board 2021 Urban Arterial Sidewalk Program application for Valley View 3rd and Southern Avenue improvements.
you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a Transportation Improvement Board 2021 Urban Sidewalk Program application for Valley View Avenue, 3rd Street and Southern Avenue improvements.
Thank you,
Kevin will second.
Kevin, was that you?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Jackie, a second by Kevin. Is there any discussion, council? Russ?
Hey, Joe, my question is about that $1.6 million. Is that already secured federal funding?
It is. Yeah, we've got a letter, I think, on file, I'm pretty sure from YB-COG. And yeah, we're in line to start construction, or at least obligate construction funding next year after we get the right-of-way done. Yeah, I'm just trying to get the right-of-way done. You guys remember we did a local agreement with Yakima County here a few months ago to get them started on the right-of-way acquisition, and they are currently working on that. Everything goes well, and they believe that they'll have it wrapped up by July of next year, and then get this other TIB funding secured, and then I can come up with the rest of it internally. We will then revise our prospectus to show that we're ready to move forward and seek obligation authority from Washington.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Suzanne?
Thank you. Joe, you mentioned that if we did get this, we would go one of two ways. One being waiting for another city to step forward.
I'm sorry, I just can't hear you. I can't understand what you're saying.
Suzanne, your audio is really bad.
Can you hear me now?
Now you're frozen.
And now you're froze. Can you hear me?
I'll try once more.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
this is Mr. Peters. Her bandwidth was, she was getting a notification that her bandwidth was too low. So she might want to try to call in.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, Suzanne, do you want to try and call in?
No, I can ask the question later. No,
Okay.
that's okay.
Give me a call.
No.
Okay, so Suzanne, you're ready to move forward? All right, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Jackie, a second by Kevin. Roll call, Monica?
Councilman Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mattson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilman Peterson,
Yes.
Councilman Bell,
Yes.
Councilman Costello,
Yes.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes.
Unanimous, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, resolution N3, Mr. Case.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this pertains to the cell phone tower, or actually the communication tower that's up on the hill on Goodlander Road, folks. Back in April, the council unanimously approved the mayor to sign and enter into on behalf of the city a contract, what's termed a letter agreement, with an outfit, EIP Holdings 2 LLC, little convoluted name there, out of the Pittsburgh area, I believe they are. Basically getting in line to take over or potentially take over that cell phone tower after the current holder, its rights expire. This agreement, before the council approved it, was negotiated on behalf of the city by myself and then City Administrator Mr. Wayman. That's why I'm presenting this to you today, because I was involved in negotiations back then. What ended up happening was a bit of snafu. I think it's actually on EIP's part. The version that got signed was not the final negotiated version. Rather, the version that got signed still had two more onerous late payment provisions in it that I had drafted during the negotiations, but that the agreement was to go back to the language that EIP had proposed. So what you have before you today is a proposed resolution that would allow the mayor to enter into a first amendment to the letter agreement in order to effectuate those two changes, basically to make the two late payment provisions what was actually negotiated between the parties rather than what was included in the original signed version. Now, given that these are just late payment provisions, they'll probably never get triggered. This is a well-funded outfit. This is a profitable tower. We don't envision any payment problems. But really the only switch is, I think it reduces the total late payment penalty that we could slap on them if they ever are late, and also imposes on us a duty if they ever are late before we try and slap a penalty on them to just send them notice. So basically these are small tweaks to go back to what was agreed, and a snafu on the paperwork caused this to need to be amended. And we don't think that either of these provisions will probably ever be invoked anyway. But if there's a motion in a second, I will field any questions.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve.
Thank you, Russ.
I second.
Thank you, Roger. Council, any discussion? Seeing none, Monica, roll call.
Councilman Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mattson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilman Peterson,
Yes.
Councilman Bell,
Yes.
Councilman Costello,
Yes.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes.
Unanimous, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. N4, Chief Chrisman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council, the resolution in front of you tonight has to do with our telephone system at the police department. We began working on this when Mr. Wayman was the city administrator. The problem really revolves around the fact that people were calling into the police department unable to connect with the receptionist or with one of the officers here. We were being told that the phone would ring and ring and ring. It wouldn't even go to voicemail. There were just a lot of problems with it. So we called Consolidated Communications, who is our provider of our equipment and service, and they came in, did an assessment, and realized that we had some pretty antiquated equipment. And so we were asked by Mr. Wayman to have them work up a bid, and we did so. That bid was submitted. And then later we were asked to provide a comparison. And so we reached out to others to see how that would compare. In the end, the decision was made that the consolidated bid was competitive, and they're already taking care of the city. And so we're asking tonight for you to consider allowing the mayor to enter into a contract with them. As far as the fiscal impact, they're going to replace this analog system with a fully digital system, which will mean that they'll have to come in and provide a switch, sort of a CPU in our mechanical room, and then put new phones on the desk, and then connect all of that to the switch, and then activate it. That's about $10,000, $10,133.14, according to the resolution you have in front of you. We currently pay about $806 a month for our telephone bills for equipment and service. After this digital switch, our monthly payment will go down to $198. So a very significant savings of around $600. The company Consolidated has offered to spread that $10,000 payment over a period of time. So if we would continue to pay around $800 a month for either 12 or 18 months. And then depending on how that worked out cost-wise, there may be a small sum at the end of that period, or we could pay it off over that until the return on the investment is complete. Happy to answer any questions that you might have about that. If hopefully it wasn't too confusing. It seemed a little confusing to me.
Thank you, Chief. Roger?
Madam Mayor, I'd move to approve the purchase of the equipment as outlined by the police chief.
Thank you.
Oh, second.
Is that Kevin? Cliff, did you second it? Okay. Okay, we have a motion to approve by Roger, a second by Cliff. Is there any discussion, council? Seeing no discussion, Monica, roll call.
Councilman Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mattson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilman Peterson,
Yes.
Councilman Bell,
Yes.
Councilman Costello,
Yes.
Councilman Carlson,
Yes.
unanimous, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, council. Thank you, Chief Chrisman. Ordinances, we have none. Public appearances, we have none. Reports and announcements. Let's see, who do we have? Chief Lang on here?
I'm still here, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Well, everyone, since the COVID restrictions have been kind of lightening up a little bit, our call volume has certainly increased with more activity from the public. For some reason, we've had a lot of motor vehicle accidents lately. We've had 15 in July so far, 8 in the last 9 days. So people have been cooped up too long, don't know how to drive anymore, I guess. So we're on track to have another record year this year with call volume. Our annual hose testing has been completed for the year. Our annual hydrant testing will be completed by the end of the week. And then we will be participating with the police department or next to the police department at National Night Out. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Chief Chrisman.
Yeah, thanks. As Chief Lang mentioned, National Night Out is coming up. And I just want to give you a quick rundown. It's Tuesday, August 3rd from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at Wixon Park. And here's just a few of the things that we have planned for. We have the training center coming out with their bomb squad and military vehicles, the MATV robots, and they're going to bring their bomb suit out and set up and let the folks see how that feels to carry around that extra weight. National Guard is bringing out a striker vehicle and the wrecker, they call it. The Yakima Sheriff's Office Marine Unit is bringing a reserve officer, boat, and truck to the park. Washington State Patrol will be there with a trooper, Fish and Wildlife, Search and Rescue. They'll bring their canine unit down to interact with folks. We have the Mustang Car Club that'll be here. We have a wrecked vehicle that apparently there's some history with this. Of course, I haven't had an experience yet, but something about smashing a car with a sledgehammer or something. I don't know. So we're going to do that again. We don't have a tank coming from the firing center this year, so there won't be some grand finale where they run over a car with a tank. But the fire department is going to remove the roof from the car with the jaws of life and things like that and demonstrate an extraction, I think. Our fire department, of course, as Chief Lang said, will be there. Kings Row has donated food for about 8,000 people. I'm sorry, 800 people, sorry. And we have donations from Treetop, grocery outlet, Sentinel, the firing center, Chevron, food and beverages for folks to enjoy. We just were notified today that the Yakima Health District will have a vehicle there for to represent them, and even for those people who haven't been vaccinated yet, they'll be able to provide vaccinations on site. We have over 20 businesses that will have tables on site for National Night Out this year, and they're going to have an interactive process with folks. They'll be playing games like Cornhole, Connect Four. There's a giant Jenga game for the family to enjoy, and it's all free to the community. And so we're excited. We're going to have our Pepsi trailer there. The police department's sponsoring that, and lots of other things. There's a kind of a big surprise in the making. So for those listening, stay tuned for that. I told you that I was going to try to get you an overview of some of the legal issues that we're wrestling with in law enforcement, and that just kicked in Sunday night, Monday morning, 12:01. Once the clock clicked over to Monday, the new laws went into play, and they're still very dynamic. And so things are changing a little bit, but I should have that wrapped up for you to review here very, very soon this week. And so I'll get that to you. Last week, we had the civil service meeting, and they certified the entry level list. And I'm telling you, I was so excited about this list. We're about 17 people deep on that, and some very, very good candidates. And we've already started the background on a couple of those. And so looking forward to getting those people in place. We also have our 2 student officers that are still over in Burien at the Law Enforcement Academy. And just so you know, they're scheduled to graduate September 9th. And so we'll get them back here shortly thereafter and get them plugged into their field training phase, which will last about 3 months. And then hopefully will be on their own on the road again. So a lot of things happening, and really happy still to be here. Lots of cool stuff going on at the police department.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from anybody? No. All right. Thank you. Mr. Peters.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I've been off on vacation, summertime, and with kids and everything like that. So I've been trying to get caught back up this last week, and I'll be taking some other vacation, but it shouldn't interfere with the city council meetings. And I've been working with Mr. Henny on a number of different projects. So I'll just go over a couple of the top few larger projects that we have coming up more sooner than later. So the first one is that we're taking our capital facility plan to the Planning Commission, as well as our sign ordinance draft that Mr. Case and I have worked together on. That will be going to the Planning Commission on August 3rd. And then as of the last Planning Commission meeting, we completed the review of the flood damage ordinance that the city is required to update per the Department of Ecology / FEMA. So all 3 of these items will be moving on to City Council either the second meeting in August or the first meeting in September is when we're kind of targeting. It just depends upon the timing for the notice of the public hearing for City Council, whether we can get that in after we have our final public hearing on these 3 items. At least the public hearing before the Planning Commission. Then also we're still working with the brewery, which is at the entrance to the city of Selah. They're still interested in doing a right-of-way vacation. So as of last Thursday, I've met with the party, and they are renewing their interest in doing some right-of-way vacation and possibly donating some property exchange for right-of-way for entrance into their facility. to provide a space for a welcome to Selah sign. So they're going to do some more thinking and get back with Mr. Henny and myself, and then we'll bring whatever their proposal they have to the mayor and Mr. Henny for them to appropriately bring that before the city council before we make any movement on the right-of-way vacation. Other than that, there's other projects that I'm working on in the planning department. One of the big ones is I'm trying to get the land use application for the comp plan amendment and rezone put together this week for the city police station site. Get that zone change in place so that way we can take that to the planning commission and eventually to the city council to change the zoning to where it would allow a police station to be located on that property. My understanding is there is a couple of other properties that some citizens have some interest in doing some rezoning and comp plan changes. But as of right now, we don't have any submitted. They have until the end of this month to submit those applications. And then the application process closes till the end of this year. And so we can process everything and get those to the Department of Commerce. And other than that, there's other things I'm working on with Joe, but I'll let him talk to you about those things. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Russ?
Hey, Jeff, you talked about the zone changes. The last two zone changes that I recall doing, one up Crusher Canyon and one up Spires. One of these developments went through with what they said they were going to do, and the others continues to sit vacant. My question is, can we make these zone changes subject to completion of these projects within a certain amount of time, so that we're not just changing zoning constantly whenever a new idea comes up? How do we handle that to keep some pressure on the timeline and keep things moving forward?
Well, to my knowledge, and maybe Mr. Case knows a little bit more than I do, but in all of my years of planning, I have not known any state law or otherwise where a city can obligate a property owner to follow a strict time frame to develop something. Generally speaking, there's two different types of rezone / comp plan amendments. They're project specific and there are non-projects. So non-projects are where, say for example, a developer looks at a piece of property, they have an idea of what they'd like to do with it. They know that whatever their idea is, they need to, let's say, have a higher density zone or a commercial zone or industrial zone, but they don't have any development plans specifically to build a building or something of that nature. And they're trying to make that property more valuable, either for them to develop or then to sell to somebody else. So in those instances, city councils are looking and planning commissions are looking at it from the sheer standpoint of how much zoning of that type does the city has? Is there things like sub-area plans and existing comp plan goals and policies which identify that there needs to be more of that type of zoning in the city? If the answer is, say, for example, like high density residential, and we have very little of developable left, then the answer should be, yes, we want to approve that zone change to allow for more opportunity for high density residential development. Now, there's other factors in that, like compatibility with surrounding zonings and not creating spot zones and stuff like that. But that you can get into that later once you have an application in front of you. The second one that I mentioned, which is the project specific. So that's one where there is an actual site plan. There is that is tied to that. And usually there is some kind of development application as well, either a type 1 review that goes along with that, then it's approved subsequently once the rezone and comp plan goes. And that's where the time frame can tag on to, is that development permit has a specific lifespan, if you will, for before it has to be reviewed, approved, or it expires.
That kind of answers my question. The problem I'm trying to resolve in my head, and maybe it's not a problem, but is when, for example, the zone change on Spires, the annexation, I guess it was, on Spires, was presented to us with an idea, with a plan of what they wanted to do, and business partners were brought in, and after the annexation took place, the deal died and nothing happened. And now we've rezoned this property, which maybe will be used for that reason, or maybe somebody else will come back in and rezone it. So I'm trying to avoid whether it was intentional or not, I'm trying to avoid possible issues in the future where they parade someone in and say, oh, this is what we're going to do, and then switch the plan after it's already been presented.
Well, they can only go and do what is allowed in that particular zoning district. So for example, a property owner has a piece of R1 single family residential property, because that's generally the designation that when something is annexed into the city, it comes in as. And then it's up to the city to look at that property and to bring that property owner through a rezone process and a comp plan process to upgrade it to a higher density. Well, let's just say, for example, they look at that piece of property, it's R1 today, and they bring an application to bring it to, let's say, R2 residential, because they want to do duplexes and triplexes. Once the city council approves that comp plan designation and that subsequent rezone, the only density that they're allowed to have is that which is allowed underneath that zone. So if only duplexes are allowed to be built in the R2 zoning district, or up to 7 dwelling units per residential acre, but single family home in the R2, then that's as far as they can go without going through another conditional use permit process that allows a higher density or a higher development, or something like a planned development subdivision that's going to be going through the planning commission into the city council for adoption and approval.
Yeah, maybe I'm not stating myself clearly. I understand that they can't build over that zone, above that zone. What I'm trying to avoid in the future is, and not that this happened, but what I'm trying to avoid in the future is, say I want to develop a property and I bring in my brother-in-law and he puts on a song and dance about how amazing this property is going to be that we develop, and then once it's approved, I slap on just the basic whatever, which I am allowed to do. But how do we avoid that show, that bait and switch, I guess, that could potentially exist?
There isn't any way that you can guarantee that, because the state of Washington, allows and has rules and laws that say that a developer or a property owner has rights to be able to develop his property in accordance with the laws of the city of Selah. And so we don't have anything on the books, that I'm aware of. Maybe, like I said, maybe Rob knows differently, but I'm not aware of any kind of law or rule that in the planning field that says that we can go and limit them. Our zoning rules and laws are all that we have.
Russ, is what if I may, you say, are you saying that somebody might come in and say, I'm going to build a structure and it's going to have a $200 square foot cost and it's going to be well decorated, and then you're saying, okay, then we go in and approve a rezone, and then they come in and build something with a $50 square foot? Is that what you?
Yeah, basically, what I don't want is I don't want somebody to come in and try to manipulate the council with a presentation, this glorious presentation, if they have no intention of fulfilling with it.
So I guess, Jeff, then what he's asking is, can we enhance
Well,
our zoning requirements to have some sort of requirements similar to what we did for our planned development ordinance?
There isn't anything in the comp plan or the rezone process that I know of in state law that allows us to condition the rezone to specifically that use. I don't know if you want to chime in or not, Rob.
Sure, I will. I believe that what Jeff is summarizing is accurate, and I believe the way that we've handled it before, prior to my time, is basically the way we're going to need to handle it going forward. I understand the hypothetical you're laying out, Russ, but a property owner has the right to develop his or her land lawfully. And if plans change or intent changes, that's life.
How did we put the planned development together that said you got to pick from a street with sidewalks adjacent to the curb, or streets with sidewalks that are set back and landscaping, and the buildings have to have some sort of architectural features that keep them from looking the same? We did that with the planned development.
Well, that's a different animal. That we're on one hand, we're talking subdivision, we're talking the city created a planned development ordinance which says that you can subdivide a piece of property and you can have these certain features in your development. So it's saying, basically it's taking you through a long plat or a short plat, subdivision type process, and then adding on additional conditions and approval and process to that plan development to say that we're going to allow you some leeway, some things that you normally wouldn't be able to have in any other type of development in the city of Selah. But in exchange, you're going to go and tell us and show us what things look like up front. The difference between a platting process or a plan development process and a rezone and a comp plan is that a rezone and a comp plan actually don't create any type of subdivision of property or anything like that. It just changes the zoning district to a higher density or a new development type, say, for example, commercial or industrial. And then whatever different types of uses are allowed in each of those zones that you're moving to, that becomes the controls for what can take place on those properties. So as a city council, when you're hearing, let's just say it's a commercial piece of property, and somebody comes in and says, yeah, I want to build a Microsoft manufacturing plant for keyboards in the city of Selah, and that's what I'm going to do on this property. And they're asking to go to, a commercial zoning district. If you look down that table of permitted land uses under that particular zone, and they can build widgets, that's what they can do. They don't have to do what they want. They say they can do any one of those uses that are allowed in that particular zone.
Obviously, we're going to have to talk about this a little bit, Russell, because what concerns me about that statement, Jeff, is that if we have a zoning that says, okay, you can do A, B, C, D, we have to be careful what we allow in that zone, because if they come in and say, hey, I want to rezone this property, I'm going to build this, whatever, this mundane type of a product, and then they sell it to somebody else, or they come in and change their mind and they want to put in a manufacturer that uses a lot of water and produces high strength of sewer, then that's when we've been hoodwinked.
Well, again, I'm kind of simplifying this for everybody's edification, but I mean, they still have to meet all of our different development standards. So if we require that these types of uses require, industrial sewer, or it requires higher water usage, we have the ability to go and restrict them on other areas, but our ordinances have to be in place to go and control that. Just like if somebody takes an existing commercial building and they decide maybe they have an auto mechanic in there and there's no parking for that, but then somebody wants to move in a barber shop which has a high requirement for parking, those types of uses then would have to go through a review. And if they don't have the required parking to be there, or they're in a parking exempt area, then we tell them, no, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to go and either get a variance if the city is so inclined to grant it, or B, that they're not going to be able to move in there. They're going to have to find a different location that has the facilities that would accommodate the use.
Cliff, Russell, there are some safeguards, as like Jeff was saying, there's class 1, 2, and 3 reviews, and those can trigger other amenities, but the aesthetics of residential stuff is what's trickier.
It's really just apples and oranges, Russ.
Yeah.
When you're considering and deliberating on a planned development or subdivision, it's the project that's at issue. By contrast, when you're considering and considering, I'll just say, a rezone, it's just the zoning. So to the question I think you fundamentally posed, I'll restate it a little bit in my own language, but how do you make sure the council doesn't get hoodwinked by promises of a grandiose development if a rezone goes through? The way that you don't get hoodwinked is you just be cognizant of the fact of what you're actually voting on. Anytime you're voting on a rezone, you need to be aware that anything that fits that rezone could actually end up resulting on that property. But what Jeff and Joe are saying is they're both saying something accurate, and that is just because the property gets rezoned doesn't mean sky's the limit. It means the property owner or developer can do anything that meets the code, and some things are not going to meet the code.
That answers my questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Schwab.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have a lot. We unfortunately had to cancel flag football for this summer due to insufficient registrations. But soccer registration for the fall opened on Monday, and we've got quite a few registrations in the last couple of days. So we've got that going for us. Otherwise, Councilwoman Vargas emailed me this morning in regards to the volunteer park play service. I've been attempting to contact No Fault, who did the play surface. I heard from All Play, who was the contractor on that job this afternoon. She said she's been trying to make contact with them as well. And I got a hold of their office this afternoon. And of course, the person that I've been corresponding with for the last few months since March 16th is not in the office today. So I'm hoping that I'll hear back from them sometime soon. But we are well aware of the issue, and we're trying to get it fixed because it's under warranty. It'd be a lot nicer to just have them come out and do it for us rather than Public Works trying to figure out how to do it. But we're well aware of the surface there, and we're doing everything we can to this point to get it all worked out. But my department is running 100%. We've had events in the Civic Center the last few weekends. We have another one coming up. So we're getting back to normal, I guess. So unless anybody's got any questions, that's all I've got.
Cliff?
I don't know if this is for Zach or Joe, but since you brought up the surface area volunteer park, I want to bring up the tennis court again. Too hot, too cold. Can't do it now. Where are we exactly, and when is that going to get finished, and do we know anything?
Well,
Joe, do you want to take that one?
yeah, sure. Mr. Case and I had a discussion 10 days ago or so. We sent the contractor a letter and advised him of some times to be completed by, otherwise we'd find him in breach of contract. I was finally able to get hold of the contractor today, and he stated that he was having trouble getting product because of some storm and some plant that was damaged in Texas that supplies it, and he can't get product shipped because of COVID restrictions and truck drivers availability. But he assures me that now he has a shipment coming from Florida of product, and that he would get on this next week. And I told him to forgive me, but I really don't have faith in what he's telling me. And he again apologized and said that he would get it going. Rob and I's talked. I think we don't see some action, we're just going to get a hold of the other bidder that was on the project from Spokane and see if we can't get it down here.
Suzanne?
I'll try this once more. What is the scope of work we're asking him to do? Is this tearing up or patching?
I think she's asking, are they patching it or are they tearing up the surface and redoing it? Is that correct, Suzanne?
At the
At Volunteer Park?
Volunteer?
At Volunteer Park, Suzanne?
No.
The tennis courts?
Tennis courts.
Okay.
Tennis court,
Yeah.
well, there are some cracks, and they are cutting out the original material that is the coloring, and they are trying to bridge those cracks with a new material, and then recolor everything and get everything with a non-skid finish. Like I say, this is the third or the fourth time we have done this, and every time it's been difficult to get a good, decent repair job. I remember discussing that these courts really need to have the fences taken down, and they need to be rotor milled out halfway down and re-overlaid so a new surface can be applied over a crack-free surface. And I don't recall the cost, but it was several $100,000, I think, or $150,000 more than what we currently are applying. So a patch is a patch is a patch. And the problem is, though, trying to get this gentleman here to give us our patch.
Thank you, Joe. Okay. Mr. Hinney, do you want to put on your public works hat?
Oh, sure. I don't know if anybody's driven by First Street and Orchard this afternoon, but I don't remember the time it was, 2 o'clock, 2:30. I got a call from Mr. Jones where a water main had broken, and they lifted up the asphalt there in the intersection and then came out and cracked through, and it was running down the gutters towards Duenas. We were able to get it shut off, and we exposed the pipe, but it was a 4-inch cast iron main line. We cut out a damaged section, put in a new piece of pipe, and put in couplers, and we were able to turn it back on at about 4:30. So it's up and it's running. It seems to be holding. So that is that. We have another leak up on Hillcrest in a area up there. We're not really sure. It's coming out of a meter box. I don't know if the hot weather is finally permeated down deep enough where it's creating movement down there, and the pipes are just not appreciative of that movement. You know, it kind of does the opposite in the winter. If it's cold for an extended period of time, then we get water breaks as well. So anyway, we've been having a few of them. The transit plan, I'm trying to get that to council by August 24th for the 6-year transportation transit plan. We've been working with MedStar, and that has been difficult. They've had some restructuring over there, and we're getting through it, but it hasn't gone very easily. That's about it from Public Works. Want me to switch hats?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. We had I interviewed a gentleman from the city of Toppenish. He's the public works superintendent down there. Read through his resume and contacted 4 different engineers at our consulting firm. Talked to other people around the valley. Talked to folks that have known this individual. He's been involved over the years with the our monthly public works director meetings at Yakima Valley Conference of Governments. His name is Rocky Wallace. He's, like I say, he's from the city of Toppenish. Mayor and I reviewed his resume. We interviewed him once. I interviewed him a second time. He lives here in town. His grandfather was the public works director at Selah and worked for the city for 30-some years. And he's very motivated and wanted to be employed here in town. So made him an offer. He accepted, and he starts on August 16th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's go to, since we're going a little bit backwards here, Mr. Case.
I have no public report, but we do have a half-hour executive session scheduled for later.
Okay, thank you. Jackie?
No report, Madam Mayor.
Russ?
No report.
Suzanne?
No report.
Thank you, Suzanne. Cliff?
No report.
Mike?
No report.
Thank you. Kevin?
Just happy to say that I get to have my first in-person meeting with the board, the Yakima Valley Tourism tomorrow. So since I've joined, it's all been by Zoom, but this will be our first in meeting. So I'm excited. So I should have a report next meeting.
Thank you. Roger?
Yes, I do have a report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
From SPRSA. And first, I want to say that over the last couple of years, especially the last 2, the SPRSA board has worked extremely hard to increase the revenue that they raise from events and rentals. And we've done that. We rent to multiple swimming teams from high schools. Both of them in Selah. Natchez has rented. Ellensburg has rented. Multiple private parties. All of these increase the revenue. The end result of that is that SPRSA is in a position now, and the board approved submitting a levy to the voters in the November general election, and it'll be at 10 cents per 1,000 assessed value. That's the lowest it's ever been. And I attribute that to the hard work of staff and board at SPRSA being there to increase the revenues that we can can operate the pool for much less than our projections in years gone by. So that's going on. In conjunction with trying to promote this on the night out, August 3rd, we will have 2 free swim sessions during the night out. First one is 5:15 to 6 p.m. and the second one will be 6:15 to 7 p.m. And we have to be out for a private party rental at 7:15. So raising more revenue there, but also giving an introduction. And I would hope that you tell all of your friends in the community and elsewhere that they can come enjoy and experience the Selah Aquatic Center on those 2 open free sessions. We'll also be having in the month of August. And those, I don't have the times yet. The board will meet on this coming Monday to approve the times, but the dates, we're going to have tours that will conduct, board members will conduct the tours of the facility for adults. And they'll be on the 11th, the 14th, and the 25th and the 28th. And those are Wednesdays and Saturdays. So people can come in. If you take the tour, your entire family can swim during that session that coincides with those times. So you're for free. So you can experience the pool besides getting a tour and understanding of how the pool operates and what went into building it. So those are available. We'll have a townhouse meeting in October on the 14th at the Civic Center to answer the community's questions about the levee and the pool operations and anything else to do with the operation of the pool there. So that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Yeah, it was great seeing early in the season the school buses from the other schools and the pool full with swim teams and from schools and private teams practicing. So it was great driving by there seeing it full. Roger, you were the last council member. The only thing Joe?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I forgot. I'd like to have Chief Crispin thank Officer Reeves and Officer Worrell. They helped my guys out there with traffic control today and assisted with placing cones and keeping them from getting run over. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Yes, as I was coming into City Hall at 5, the guys were down with their muddy clothes on. They all had smiles on their face. And I rolled the window down and asked what they were doing. And they told me that they were trying to fix the speed bump they made for the mayor on First Street. And they were, it was dinner time. The guys were all smiling. They were happy. So thank you to all of the crew that was out there working on that. And I don't need a speed bump because I don't speed. Hope to see everybody on National Night Out. It sounds like this is going to be one of our biggest. We have a lot of people going to be there from the community. So, and outside of the community. Okay, we are now going to go into a 30-minute executive session. It's 6:43.
Mayor, can we have a 5-minute recess?
Yes, we'll take a 5-minute recess. So we will be back.
We'll be back in 15 minutes.
We'll be back in 5 minutes. Teresa.
Okay.
Is that what you said?
So you want to come back on?
No, it'll be a 5-minute break and then they'll take a half hour for their executive session. So 35 minutes.
So 35 minutes total.
Yeah.